Americans are breaking up with their work friends. Now, when you hear that, if you're new to this show, hang in here for a second, because this is really important. And there's a whole lot of data that says it's important. But this seems kind of silly, right? And yet it's troubling. What is this referring to? The role of workplace friendships is now getting a whole lot of attention with articles like these, data from my good friends at Gallup, that is vitally important for those of us who are working in an office, and quite frankly, even if you're in a remote hybrid role as well. And here's the backdrop. As I reveal this to you, I want you to consider something. Do you believe, as a human, that you are a relational being first and foremost? Before we ever look at professional roles, before we look at dreams and goals and visions, do you believe that in our human spirit, we long to relate? The root word of relationship is relate. Do you believe that? All right, there's the question as we go through this. Companies are now seeking to rebuild office cultures, and I've been reporting on this and trying to bring employees back. A lot of data that's saying it's better when people are together, and I know a lot of you have very different opinions on that. Say, Ken, it's better for me personally when I'm remote, and I can't argue with that. But we're not talking about just you and just your schedule. So Gallup did a survey of nearly 4,000 hybrid workers, and 17% said they had a best friend at work. Now, don't confuse this with your best friend in life. I mean, you can have a best friend in life, but when you're in your work environment of the relationships you have, when you think, you go, do I have a best friend? Like, who's my best friend at work? Do I have one of those? Or am I just kind of like, level with everybody? 17% said they did have a best friend at work. Now, this is down. And this is the troubling data, down from 22% from the same survey in 2019. For all workers, including those fully remote or on-site, the share who reported a close work friend slipped less to 19% from 20% because they're already detached. Meanwhile, the data suggests the link between having a best work friend and feeling committed to a job has grown stronger over the past 3 years. In other words, workers who don't have a best friend at work are more likely to want to leave. Of course. As humans, we're made to connect. We long to belong. And when we don't have that, there's less holding us to a job. And keep in mind, not that you need this reminder, but we spend more time at work or doing work than anything else we do in our life. And if you don't have good relationships, much less a best friend at work, a true solid buddy, I could see why you don't have roots. Makes sense. About 15% of people without a best friend at work report being extremely satisfied at work this year. Fewer than the 23% who said the same in 2019. So again, some troubling trends. Now they focus on a guy named Michael in this article. And this is what he said. He's a database administrator in California. He said, I don't want to put in 8, 9, 10 hours and then go out and have a beer and talk about work for another 4 hours. I think that's a false narrative. And I think this is how this is getting couched. And I think some of you who kind of pull back, you recoil from the idea of having really good friends at work, and you say these kinds of things. And there are a lot of people. Why would I want to do that? I want to keep my work life and my real life separate. Okay, I think it's a false choice. And I'm going to challenge that. Let me read more. Now another lady, they quote in here. A professor at New York University who has studied work relationships, Juliana Pillemer, says this: friendships at work are bleeding of worlds. If you're already like, I have no separation between these things, I can really understand the drive to not spend any more time, even if it's socializing with coworkers. So again, she's speaking of the fact that let's just say that you're pretty burned out or you've got a pretty high stress job and you feel like there's a lack of boundaries anyway. For instance, let me give you, you're at home and you spend a couple hours a night working, sending emails and all that kind of stuff. And I get that, but that's an unhealthy boundary. That's on you. Well, you say, well, my boss and everybody expects it. Do they? I haven't sent more than 5 emails in 8 years at Ramsey Solutions on a weeknight. That's a true story. Or on a weekend. You ain't going to get a text or an email from me on the weekend because I'm living, baby. And we'll get to it on Monday. So I don't buy this. Now, here's the false narrative. This is talking about relationships while you're at work, how important it is. It doesn't mean you got to go have beers with them or cocktails with them and keep talking about work for 2 more hours. The idea of having a best friend at work, and I'd have a hard time choosing, to be honest with you, at Ramsey Solutions. I'm thinking about 3 or 4 different people. But I don't spend a lot of time with them. In fact, very little time with them outside of work. I got 3 teenagers. I mean, I'm busy, man. I don't lead a very exciting life. I'm in bed by 10 o'clock most nights. So I'm not out having cocktails with all these people at work. But when we're at work, man, we're friends, man. We can simultaneously be in a meeting talking about things that are very important and also have a good time. We can have a good time in between meetings. All you got to do is go on Instagram and see some of my silly reels where I'm goofing off at the Ramsey office all the time, throwing Nerf football, putting contest. I mean, we have a good time. People I like to hang with in the office. So this narrative that, well, I want to separate my work world and real world. Okay, that's fine. I'm good with that boundary. But you need to develop strong relationships in the office. My goodness, you're on a team. Presumably, and this is part of the problem, presumably you guys are on the same mission, shared values about what the company's doing. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Things start to break down when you're just in a JOB and you don't have any connection to the company's mission and vision, and you're just there and you're just collecting a paycheck. And so you're just showing up, punching the card, the time clock, and boom, you're out, and you don't want to engage because you're just quiet quitting. Well, of course, you're not going to develop relationships. But if you care deeply about the integrity of your work, doing a good job, and you care about the product or service that you're involved in, and you want to see things grow, and then you're working with a team and you're all pulling your own weight, you ought to be developing natural relationships. And so then to just simply have a friend that you go, you know what, I'm closer to this gal than I am this gal. And you know what, we're there for each other. And she's the person that I can talk to when my teenager does something stupid and I get a call and I'm going through a tough time. And I can have lunch with her and I feel safe with her. Or he's the guy that, man, you know what, when I've had a tense day, he is a great dude to kind of hang with. And we're not talking about work at happy hour. We're just talking about life. I'm telling you, this idea of separating yourself from people only hurts you. We are made to relate. Now, let me tell you this. When we relate better, guess what happens? We create better.